Welcome to another AP Human Geography topic walkthrough, brought to you by Mr. Michael, Social Studies teacher. This video is here to help you fill out your lecture notes, understand the big ideas, and maybe even laugh once or twice. So grab your notes and let's get started.
Picture this. You're eating strawberries in January, drinking iced coffee that flew across an ocean, snacking on chips made from corn grown in a totally different state. Agriculture said, "Local who?" Look at this scene. You've got fields being harvested, giant silos behind them, trucks rolling out, shipping containers stacked like it's global Jenga. Farming is not just overalls and a pitchfork anymore. It's giving corporate strategy. It's giving supply chain energy. This video is all about how economic forces influence agricultural practices. Translation: money, land, and location decide what gets grown and how. Some regions reflect subsistence farming, growing food just to survive. Others go full commercial mode, focused on profit. That's where monocropping or monoculture comes in. One crop, over and over, specialize, max efficiency, main character crop energy. Then we've got land costs. Through bid-rent logic, land closer to the market costs more. If you're paying premium rent, you better farm intensely to make that money back. Farther from the market? Land is cheaper, so farming tends to be more extensive. More space, fewer inputs, different strategy. Meanwhile, large-scale commercial operations are replacing small family farms. Agribusiness runs the show. Production, processing, transportation, research, financing. It's not just planting seeds, it's a full economic machine. Those trucks and containers, that's part of a complex commodity chain connecting farms to consumers. Your food has a travel history longer than your summer vacation. And technology? It boosted economies of scale, bigger farms, lower per-unit costs, and increased the carrying capacity of the land. Farmers today feed way more people than they did decades ago because of machinery, fertilizers, improved seeds, irrigation, the whole upgrade package. Agriculture isn't just dirt and sunshine. It's strategy, scale, cost, and competition on a global level. Now let's lock in the learning target before we start breaking this system apart, piece by piece. All right, besties, this is the Brain Unlock slide. The mission is simple, but not simple. We need to explain how economic forces influence agricultural practices. That means money, markets, land costs, access to credit, infrastructure, who has it, who doesn't, and how all of that changes the way farming looks in different regions. Agricultural production regions are defined by whether they reflect subsistence or commercial practices. Subsistence farming is survival mode. Commercial farming is profit mode. And when farms go commercial, you often see monocropping or monoculture, one main crop over and over, because specialization boosts efficiency. It's like the farm picked a favorite and said, "This is my entire personality now." Intensive and extensive farming practices are shaped partly by land costs. That's where bid-rent theory comes in. Expensive land near markets? Farmers have to farm intensely to survive. Cheaper land farther away, more extensive farming, more space, different strategy, same economic pressure. Large-scale commercial agricultural operations are replacing small family farms. That's not random, that's economies of scale doing their thing. Bigger farms can lower per-unit costs and compete harder. Then we have complex commodity chains. Food does not teleport to your plate. It moves through production, processing, distribution, transportation, a whole network linking producers and consumers across the globe. And finally, technology has increased economies of scale and boosted the carrying capacity of the land. Farmers today can feed way more people than in the past because of machinery, improved seeds, fertilizers, irrigation, the full upgrade pack. So the big idea? Agriculture is not just about soil and sunshine. It's shaped by economic decisions at every level. And before we zoom into one specific farming style that shows this difference clearly, let's talk about how economic forces impact agriculture in real life. Okay, this is where the economic divide gets real. Subsistence farming is survival mode. Crops and livestock are grown to feed the farmer, their family, and the local community. If there's a small surplus, maybe it gets sold at a nearby market. But profit is not the main character here. Survival is. Look at the images. You see manual labor, animal power, hand tools. That farmer using oxen to plow the field, that's labor-intensive agriculture. It takes time. It takes physical work. There's no fleet of tractors pulling up. Access to markets is limited. And when markets are far away or infrastructure is weak, farmers have less access to credit. No loans for expensive machinery, no easy upgrades. That means little income from farming, which makes it even harder to invest in improvements. It's a cycle. There's also a lack of infrastructure to support global trade. Fewer paved roads, limited banking systems, fewer transportation networks. That makes large-scale commercial expansion way harder. Subsistence farming is common in periphery countries, especially rural parts of Africa, parts of Asia, and Latin America. Economic forces matter here. When land, credit, and infrastructure are limited, farming stays small-scale and focused on feeding people directly. And now that we've seen survival mode agriculture, let's flip the script and look at what happens when farming goes full profit mode. Scale check. This is farming in its global boss level era. Commercial agriculture is built to sell on the global market. The goal is profit. Period. Crops and livestock are produced not just to feed one household, but to move through international trade networks and generate revenue. Look at those images. Pineapples being harvested in massive quantities. A line of combines stretching across a field like synchronized farming choreography. That kind of coordination does not happen by accident. That's large-scale mechanized production designed for efficiency. Commercial farmers usually have access to markets and credit. That means loans for modern machinery, advanced technologies, irrigation systems, improved seeds, and huge plots of land. When capital is available, farms can expand. When farms expand, they lower their per-unit production costs. That's economies of scale working behind the scenes. Infrastructure matters too. Banking systems, transportation networks, storage facilities, agricultural supply industries, all of that supports large-scale production. Without roads, ports, and financial systems, global agriculture would collapse instantly. This model is most common in core and semi-periphery countries, where economic systems allow farmers to operate at a much larger scale. When money, markets, and infrastructure align, agriculture shifts from survival mode to profit mode. And if profit is the objective, the next move is specialization, because monocropping is where efficiency really goes into overdrive. Imagine deciding your entire personality is one thing. That's monocropping. Monocropping or monoculture is the cultivation of one or two crops that are rotated seasonally. But basically it's specialization on repeat. One main crop, same land, year after year, efficiency mode activated. Why do commercial farms love this? Because specialization maximizes efficiency and leads to higher yields. When you grow just corn or just soybeans or just wheat, you can buy very specific machinery, fertilizers, irrigation systems, and pesticides designed for that one crop. Everything becomes streamlined, faster production, lower per unit costs, higher profit potential. Plantations and large corporate farms thrive on this setup. But here's the plot twist. Look at that visual on the right. A century ago, there were hundreds of varieties of crops like lettuce, peas, tomatoes, and cabbage. Decades later, the number of varieties drops dramatically. That's biodiversity shrinking. When farms focus on fewer crop varieties, genetic diversity decreases, and that can make food systems more vulnerable to disease or pests. Monocropping can also strip nutrients from the soil over time. Growing the same crop repeatedly drains specific nutrients, which means farmers often rely more heavily on chemical fertilizers to keep yields high. And then there's supply and demand. If too many farmers grow the same crop and supply becomes greater than demand, prices fall. When price drops, profits shrink. That's the risk of putting all your economic eggs in one crop basket. Monoculture boosts efficiency and profits, but it also increases environmental risk and economic vulnerability. And once farming scales up and specializes like this, it doesn't just stay on the field. It expands into something even bigger, agribusiness. Pause. We are not on a cute little farm anymore. We are inside the corporate cinematic universe of food. Agribusiness is the large-scale system that includes production, processing, distribution, financial funding, and research of agricultural products and equipment. Translation? It's not just planting corn. It's labs. It's banks. It's trucking fleets. It's marketing teams. It's boardrooms deciding what ends up in your lunchbox. Now look at those brand logos. Notice anything? One massive company owns multiple brands. And that ownership chart? A handful of corporations control huge sections of the organic and processed food industry. It's giving main character energy, but for corporations. Even though most farms worldwide are technically family-owned, the rise of agribusiness has changed the nature of farming. Small family farms are getting replaced or absorbed by giant agribusiness corporations. Why? Because scale wins. Big corporations can buy supplies in bulk. Bigger purchases mean cheaper prices. They invest in research. They control transportation networks. They manage storage facilities. They dominate commodity chains from production all the way to the grocery shelf. Vertical integration unlocked. This is economies of scale flexing hard. When production increases, the cost of inputs per unit decreases. Lower per unit costs equal higher profit margins. Smaller farms often cannot compete with that level of capital access and efficiency. Agriculture in commercial regions is no longer just about soil and seasons. It's corporate strategy, financial leverage, and global control of supply chains. And once companies go full expansion mode like this, the real power move is learning how scaling up actually lowers costs, which is where economies of scale step into the spotlight. Big farm energy. Literally. Economies of scale is what happens when farms go from family plot to agricultural empire. Large-scale farming is cost-effective because bigger farms can buy supplies in bulk at lower prices. And when you buy in bulk, discounts unlocked. Look at those visuals. A crop duster plane spraying rows like it's in a farming action movie. That massive high-tech planter covering huge fields in one pass. This is not hand tools. This is industrial precision. Modern equipment, fertilizers, pesticides, GMOs, hybrid seeds, all of that increases yields. Higher yields mean more output per acre. And when production increases, the cost of production per unit, the inputs, decreases. That's the key. More production, lower per unit cost, higher profit margins. It's math with tractors. Bigger farms make bigger purchases. Bigger purchases mean cheaper prices per unit. Smaller farms, they can't always access those same discounts. That's why economies of scale often result in fewer family-owned farms. Large operations dominate because they can operate more efficiently at scale. This is capitalism meeting cornfields. The more a farm scales up, the more it can lower its average costs and compete in global markets. Efficiency becomes the advantage. And once technology starts supercharging that efficiency, the next level is how innovation itself reshapes agriculture from the ground up. Oh, you thought tractors were the peak? Please. Farming went full Silicon Valley. This slide is basically agriculture saying, what if we added Wi-Fi? Technological advances increase the cost of operating farms. Yes, these upgrades are expensive. You need capital, you need credit, you need serious investment. But once that tech is in, efficiency goes absolutely feral. Look at that visual. Drones, sensors, farm management software, precision agriculture tools, smart irrigation systems. This is crops getting monitored like they're on a fitness tracker. Precision agriculture means farmers use GPS, data analytics, and real-time soil sensors to apply water, fertilizer, and pesticides exactly where needed. Not everywhere, exactly where needed. That reduces waste, that boosts yields, that's optimization mode. And higher yields mean the carrying capacity of the land increases. Same land, more output, more people fed. That's the economic impact. But here's the catch. These systems are expensive, so who adopts them first? Large-scale commercial farms with access to credit and infrastructure, which reinforces economies of scale, which strengthens agribusiness, which widens the gap between high-tech commercial systems and low-tech subsistence systems. Technology doesn't just make farming cooler, it reshapes the entire agricultural economy. And once farms are producing at hyper-efficiency levels like this, the next question is how all that food travels through the global system to reach consumers. Your chicken nuggets have a passport. Commodity chains are the complex networks that connect places of production with distribution to consumers. Translation, your food does not teleport. It travels, a lot. Look at that diagram. It starts at the farm gate, then transport, then grading, cleaning, slaughter, packaging, then manufacturing and processing, then storage, then distribution. then retailers, sometimes exporters. That is a whole saga before it ever reaches your plate. Due to improvements in agricultural technology, agribusiness, and globalization, farmers often raise crops and animals far from their final markets. Corn grown in one region gets processed in another, packaged somewhere else, sold somewhere completely different. It's giving world tour. And here's the economic flex. Because of economies of scale and advanced transportation systems, consumers can purchase these products at relatively low prices. Efficiency lowers per unit costs. Global trade expands markets. The system stays moving. Commodity chains link production and consumption across space. That's the spatial organization part of agriculture. Where something is grown might be nowhere near where it's eaten. Farms are no longer isolated. They're nodes in a global network. And once you understand that food moves through layered economic systems like this, the next question is how location itself and land value shapes what kind of farming happens where. All right, location is not just vibes. Location is money. Bid-rent theory says the value of land is influenced by its relationship to the market. The closer you are to the city, the more expensive that land gets. Why? Because transportation costs are lower and profits can be higher. Everybody wants that prime spot. So what happens near the market? Land is expensive. Farmers can only afford small amounts of it. That means they have to go full intensity mode. Market gardening, dairying, high-value crops, perishable goods, fast turnover, maximum profit per acre. It's basically agricultural hustle culture. Now move farther out, land gets cheaper. Transportation costs go up. But because land costs less, farmers can buy more of it. Instead of intensive farming, you see extensive farming. Large-scale grain production, ranching, animal farming, lower profit per acre, but more acres overall. That graph? It's showing how different types of farming bid for land based on distance from the market. The highest value activities stay closest. The lower value, land-heavy activities spread outward. Distance from the market shapes agricultural patterns. Land value drives farming intensity. Economics literally maps the landscape. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. Boom! Lock in. Whole video in one clean sweep. This is the speed run recap before you absolutely cook the FRQ. Economic forces run agriculture. Not vibes, not tradition. Economics. Subsistence farming focuses on feeding families and local communities. Commercial farming focuses on profit and global markets. Access to credit, transportation, and infrastructure decides who scales up and who stays small. Monocropping boosts efficiency and yields through specialization. At the same time, it reduces biodiversity and can push smaller farmers out when supply floods the market and prices drop. Supply and demand stays undefeated. Agribusiness operates at massive scale. Production, processing, distribution, research, all integrated. Consolidation shifts power from small family farms to large corporations. Economies of scale lower per unit costs. Bigger farms buy inputs in bulk, use advanced machinery, and increase output. Higher efficiency, fewer small competitors surviving long-term. Technological advances raise carrying capacity. GMOs, fertilizers, irrigation systems, precision agriculture, higher yields, higher productivity, but also higher operating costs. Commodity chains connect farm gate to global consumer. Production, processing, packaging, transportation, retail. Food moves through layered economic networks before it reaches your plate. Bid-rent theory explains spatial patterns. Expensive land near markets leads to intensive, high-value agriculture. Cheaper land farther away supports extensive farming and ranching. Distance affects transportation costs. Transportation costs shape land value. Land value shapes land use. Profit, scale, technology, and distance determine what is grown, where it is grown, and how it is grown. That's the system. And if this shows up on the exam, you're not guessing. You're explaining. And since you just speed ran the entire video, let's see if you can apply it. Suddenly the screen says bonus question in giant letters like it just leveled up. So yeah, this is where you prove you actually understood the video. Imagine a city experiencing rapid population growth. Developers are buying land. Land values near the urban core are rising fast. Farmers are being pushed farther away. Using bid-rent theory, explain how rising urban land values would change the types of agriculture found near the city versus farther from it. Be specific. Identify which types of farming would likely move outward. Explain why transportation costs matter. Connect land value to farming intensity. This is not a definition question. This is application. You must connect economic principles to spatial patterns. Drop your answer in the comments and back it up with examples. And don't forget to add your name for that bonus point.